This time, I'll introduce an escalator that generates 20 million yen in maintenance costs every year. That is Hijiyama Skywalk. There are hardly any users, and it's just in a state where only the high maintenance costs are being paid. How did it come about that the escalator was installed? And where does this escalator lead to? In this video, I will talk about the history and future of Hijiyama Skywalk, along with footage from the site and my impressions of visiting. I'll introduce it and share my thoughts. On this channel, we will continue to create many videos for everyone to enjoy, so please be sure to subscribe. So I've come to a complex commercial facility called Hiroshima East. There's a 19-story office building and a 9-story parking garage. And there's also the Hiroshima Danbara shopping center operated by AEON Mall. It features a commercial building with retail facilities and a movie theater, making it a large complex. Previously, it was operated as Hiroshima Sati. The name was changed to Hiroshima Danbara Shopping Center in 2011. The cream color of this building really gives it that Sati feel. By the way, at the end of March 2011, the Sati store brand name was unified under AEON, but this Hiroshima Sati just 3 months later in 2011. Since it was decided to close in July, the name didn't change after April, and business continued as usual. In other words, this was the last Sati. I ended up coming to a place I never expected, and I got really excited. Somehow, really. I ended up talking about commercial facilities. But the theme of this video isn't commercial facilities. There's actually a direct escalator from this Hiroshima Danbara shopping center, and apparently there's more to it. It seems that it generates 20 million yen in maintenance costs every year. To be honest, you can get there from outside too, but since we're here, let's go through the Hiroshima East Commercial Building's Hiroshima Danbara Shopping Center and head to the escalator. Let's do that. Apparently you can get there from the 3rd floor, so we'll head to where the escalator is. Sure enough, there's a sign inside the facility that says Hijiyama Skywalk. There it was. For now, we'll exit through the parking lot. It seems like that's the way. If you go straight through the slightly green area, you can see it ahead. You can't see everything from here, but this place costs 20 million yen a year to maintain. Escalator, Hijiyama Skywalk. That's right. The operating hours vary depending on the season, but it runs from 8:30 in the morning until at least 6 o'clock in the evening. It's open year-round with no usage fees. Let's move on for now. This place also has a roof and handrails, and it's quite well built. Now, what we can see ahead is currently under inspection. We came at a really bad time, but it's moving. If you thought it was an escalator, don't worry. Part of it is set up as a moving walkway, but there's a proper escalator further inside. The Hijiyama Skywalk is 2,074 meters long and has an escalator. The moving walkway section measures 77 meters. It makes up that portion. The moving walkway section also gently goes upward, and including the escalator section, there is a height difference of 37. There is also as the name Hijiyama Skywalk suggests, you can go from Hiroshima Danbara Shopping Center up to the top of the mountain, called Hijiyama, using the Skywalk. It's an escalator. By the way, Hijiyama is 711 meters above sea level, and you can easily reach the top by escalator. It feels like there aren't any people here at all, but it's really impressive. We go past the section under inspection and get on the moving walkway. Since people from Kansai are impatient, most use this moving walkway. I think that's most of them. I usually end up walking too, but today, since I'm filming, if I walk, the railing might not hold, so I'm just letting myself ride the moving walkway without walking. That's what I'll do. With nothing else to say, I'll just skip ahead until the walkway ends. Actually, the railing ended up being left over. I've arrived at the escalator section. It looks like the roof is transparent to let in light. To be honest, it looks pretty ordinary. It's just an escalator. It's designed for accessibility. If you call a staff member, it seems they can assist with wheelchairs and strollers as well. When I went there, although it was under maintenance, the 3 steps could be made flat for transportation as shown in the picture. Possible. I apologize if my wording was poor or made you uncomfortable, but I can assume that there is something they want to transport to the top of the mountain, enough to install barrier-free features. However, this escalator is very steep. Since we're climbing a mountain, it's only natural, and honestly, I've experienced long escalators in subways many times before. But maybe because there aren't any people here, it feels even more intense. It feels really steep. Since I'm afraid of heights, I'm a little scared. So at this moment, while holding the camera, I just wanted to get to the top as quickly as possible. As I held the camera, I thought, this is what looking down looks like. It might not look like it in the video, but it's quite high. It's just way too scary. Like I said earlier, the roof is transparent and the light shines through. Is that how it's designed? That's nice, but maintenance seems tough, so the cost is probably gonna be high. Anyway, while we were talking about that, we've arrived at the top. We've reached the top of Hijiyama, but it doesn't feel like a mountain. There's a proper plaza set up here, and in the plaza, there's a map labeled Hijiyama Park. There it is. Let's take a look. As you can see from the map, this entire area seems to be maintained as Hijiyama Park. At the bottom center, you can see the listings for Hijiyama Skywalk and Hiroshima Danbara Shopping Center. There's a silhouette, and if you look at the left side of this map, there's an army cemetery. In 1872, an army cemetery was established here. Hijiyama was developed as a park in 1898, but at first, it was an army cemetery. It was used that way, and the nearby area was later turned into a park. You can see that. On the right side of the map, there are an art museum and a manga library. There are 2 facilities. The opening of these 2 facilities was a major reason for the installation of the escalator. I'll now explain in more detail why the escalator was installed. I'll tell you how it happened. In 1980, to commemorate Hiroshima becoming a government-designated city, Hijiyama Park here was developed as an art park. For that reason, there are several monuments placed within Hijiyama Park. This time, I came to Hiroshima for filming, and although I visited 3 places in one day, this was the oldest place, and I was so exhausted that I couldn't make it here. And along with the monuments, the tall buildings that have risen, are the art museum and the library. In fact, the art museum opened in 1989 as the Hiroshima City Museum of Contemporary Art. The library is called Hijiyama Park Open Air Library. The predecessor of the current Hiroshima Manga Library opened in 1983. There was a development issue. It was a lack of parking spaces. Even though there are 3 parking lots in Hijiyama Park, they can only accommodate just over 100 cars in total. This isn't enough for visitors to the park, art museum, and library. It was simply impossible to do so. That's why a proposal was brought up to break through this situation. It was set to open in 1997. They planned to use the parking lot of Hiroshima East's commercial building to solve the parking shortage. The idea was to solve the problem that way. However, if people have to walk from Hiroshima East at the foot of the mountain to the park on top of the mountain, that's just a mountain. It's an uphill climb, time-consuming and tiring, making it hard to attract people. That would also affect attracting visitors. So the idea came up to make it easier for people to come by connecting Hiroshima East and Hijiyama Park with a moving walkway and escalator. And in March 1998, the Hijiyama Skywalk was open. The total construction cost was 1.76 billion yen, with 530 million yen covered by a national subsidy. Judging from the time it opened, I think it was probably a plan conceived during the bubble era. I think they built something amazing. Some people might think it would have been better to clear more of the unused part of Hijiyama and increase the number of parking spaces, but that could also lead to environmental destruction. So it couldn't be helped. By the way, Hiroshima East has sightseeing. There are also spaces secured for tour buses to park, and at the entrance to the parking lot, there's a polite sign saying that people using Hijiyama Park can also park there. This signboard too. I love the SATI vibe. It's either for Hijiyama Park's management office or just the manga library. If you go to the counter, you can get a usage certificate, and if you take the certificate to the shopping center's counter, it seems you'll get 3 hours free. I feel like most of the time I'll end up exceeding 3 hours, so I think it would be better if the free time was a bit longer, but I guess it's fine. The Hijiyama Skywalk looks really convenient, but from the beginning there haven't been many users, and even if there were a lot of users, since it's free to use, the income wouldn't increase. Because of that, there seems to have been a lot of criticism about its very existence. And in fact, in 2010, there was a discussion about abolishing the Skywalk, but it managed to avoid being shut down. Because of Hiroshima City's financial issues, a 2010 meeting unanimously agreed to abolish Hijiyama Skywalk while streamlining projects. They all agreed that it should be discontinued. When it first opened, there was a sense of novelty, and it seems that there were over 400,000 users. But by the time its discontinuation was being considered, the number of users had dropped to about 250,000. The main issue that was discussed was the high maintenance cost. It cost around 20 million yen annually to maintain and produce no revenue. Because it doesn't generate revenue, maintenance costs become a deficit. Over 15 million yen of that total goes to outsourcing fees for 7 companies handling security and equipment maintenance. It may seem like it's being used, but it actually has a unique structure. Because of that, it seems to cost quite a lot of money. Even after it was saved from abolition, its operation remained unchanged. So I don't think the maintenance costs have changed much either. Also, when I visited, there was a scene where a security guard warned some children who were playing on the escalator through the speakers installed inside the Skywalk. It seems that they are probably monitoring the users all the time. It's certainly safe for users, and I think that's a good thing, but to be honest, it's just an escalator. I wondered if constant monitoring was really necessary. As for why it wasn't abolished, it's because if they did abolish it, it would cost a huge amount to remove it. As a result, and I know this might sound bad, but even now, Hijiyama Kyoku is still being operated. I was pretty harsh, but for users, there really aren't any major downsides. In fact, it's all good things. There are no particular usage fees, and it's only convenient to have it. Hijiyama is also a famous cherry blossom spot in Hiroshima Prefecture, and especially during cherry blossom season, many people visit for hanami using the Hijiyama Skywalk. However, I think the situation remains such that it wouldn't be surprising if its discontinuation is considered at any time in the future. The maintenance cost issue I mentioned earlier hasn't really improved, and it's not like the number of users is increasing either. It's been open for 25 years, and aging is now a problem. I believe maintenance costs will keep rising. I think we should continue to keep an eye on the Hijiyama Skywalk from now on. Also, I especially want to visit the manga library next time I go. That's all for this video.